Hey guys, I'm Daniel, and this is another Advantage Moment. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about mental health counseling and therapy, and some of the myths and stigmas that surround it. So what do you think when you hear someone say, I see my counselor on a regular basis? Or, my therapist and I have been working on my issues together. If you're like a lot of people, you probably nod your head and say, good for you, and quickly change the subject.
All right, moving on to recycling.
Or make a joke at their expense.
Is this the loony bin?
Why is that? I think one of the main reasons is that we have a default idea in our heads about what counseling or therapy is. Well, I'm here to say that maybe a percentage of what you think about therapy is true, but the rest might not be so accurate. Let's face it, most of what we think about counseling and mental illnesses is informed by the media, entertainment, upbringing, personal beliefs, or the culture we grew up in may also influence how we perceive mental illness or counseling. So let's see if we can address some of those ideas and set the record straight. First off, counseling and therapy is only for people with mental illnesses. You know, those crazy people.
I'm not as crazy as you are.
First off, I wouldn't recommend calling people with mental illness crazy. That's just a little harsh. Now, I'm not trying to police your language.
We are language police, fighting bigotry!
I just want to detach the word crazy from counseling and people with mental illnesses. Now, I'll give you something. People with mental illnesses do tend to seek professional help. But guess what? So do people who don't have mental illnesses.
What?
Right. Counseling is for anyone who wants it. You don't have to have a mental illness to see a therapist. Look, what's the technical definition of counseling or therapy? Counseling. The provision of assistance and guidance in resolving personal, social, or psychological problems and difficulties, especially by a professional. Therapy. Treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder, or the treatment of mental or psychological disorders by psychological means, aka count these definitions alone. These definitions alone, you, the viewer, have already used some type of guidance or therapy in the past. Don't believe me? Okay, I'll prove it.
Fine, prove it.
How many of you visit a professional or use some type of software each year when you do your taxes? You probably lack insight on the millions of tax codes that are out there, so you go to an expert for advice and guidance.
Get your billions back, America!
You can think of your CPA or local H&R Block as your personal tax therapist. Still not convinced? Okay, I'll try again. When was the last time your car was repaired or maintained? If you don't know how to fix a car properly and you try to tackle it on your own, you'll probably do more harm than good. So what's your solution? You take your vehicle to an expert and the mechanic provides your car with some automotive therapy. Hold on, I got one more. When was the last time you went to a doctor? Well, you might think you're the boss of you, but these magical people called doctors know how the human body works. Need to get that hernia looked at?
I have a hernia.
Think you're gonna do it yourself?
I've had it for a while, and I've been ignoring it.
People often see counselors for a variety of reasons, including difficult life transitions, a death in the family, divorce, work stress, family or parenting issues. People with mental illness are not the only ones who encounter psychological stress in their lives. So be free of the myth that only people with mental illness go to see therapists. You can't trust counselors with your personal information. Some people simply don't trust other people with their personal information. Perhaps they've been betrayed in the past, and so now they're cautious about exposing themselves emotionally to someone else. While no counselor is perfect, all licensed counselors are bound by law to keep your personal information private. If they violate your privacy, they could lose their jobs, or even worse, their entire license to practice in the future. It could also open them up to legal action. The only time a counselor would have to reveal anything about their patients is if they plan on hurting themselves or others. Outside of those extreme circumstances, all counselors are required to keep your personal information. You give them explicit permission to share it. When it comes to privacy, your therapist and the law are on your side. And guidance. And the challenges people face might make them feel helpless or ashamed. Admitting that you need help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom.
You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha.
And it takes a very brave and humble person to ask for help. Anyone can ignore problems,
Well, excuse me for having enormous flaws that I don't work on!
but it takes guts to face them and to get to a better place in your life. If I go see a therapist, others are going to judge me or look at me differently. This is a belief that does have a kernel of truth in it, because there will always be people who perceive therapy in a negative light. Unfortunately, you have no control over other people's opinions. But if you fear that others will judge or make fun of you for going to see a therapist, there's an easy solution. Don't tell anyone. Now you might be saying, wait a second, isn't that lying? Well, is the fact that you don't share all your medical information with all your friends and family considered lying?
I got hemorrhoids. Can you believe that? Oh, Mother. Isn't that terrible?
If you want to tell people you trust that you're seeing a therapist, that's your decision. If you don't want to tell anyone you're seeing a therapist, that's also your decision. Seeing a mental health professional is a confidential practice, just like seeing your doctor, lawyer, or anyone else that deals with sensitive information. Therapists will mess with your heads. This one's a tough one to nail down, but let me take the mystery out of therapy. Therapists are people. That's it. They have an educational background and training in human behavior and thought, but they're not some kind of psychological Yoda.
How do I can? Yes?
A therapist will ask why you came to visit them, and you'll simply tell them why. They are here to help put you in the driver's seat so that you can work through your issues and get to the life you want. And just like any relationship, you're free to end your professional relationship with your therapist if at any time you think you're not getting the help you need. You are the person in charge, and you're asking someone to help you, not to take over your life. Therapists will make me relive my past. If you're seeking help from a mental health provider, there's a possibility that your current challenges are rooted, at least in part, by something that happened in your past. That can cause anyone to feel a lot of anxiety. But the good news is, you control what you share with your therapist. If you aren't comfortable sharing some things, you don't have to disclose anything that makes you uncomfortable. It might be that you don't yet trust your therapist to share some sensitive information. That's okay. Your therapist will not take this personally. Seeking help takes a lot of courage, and having the willingness to share painful experiences does not happen overnight. But as we discussed earlier, you're free to share whatever you want to share. Going to see a counselor or therapist might be against my religious or personal beliefs. This one's tricky, but I think I can tackle it. Since we've defined counseling and therapy already, we can come to a basic conclusion. Like with the auto mechanic or accountant, if you have religious beliefs and attend services regularly, chances are you've already spoken to a minister or someone of authority in matters of spiritual guidance. Guess what? That counts as a counseling session.
Say what?
It's not quite as formal, but it does count as therapy. If you're concerned about this, there are plenty of counselors and therapists in the religious community that can help with psychological and spiritual concerns. Seek them out. Your minister may even be able to recommend you to a mental health professional that they trust. Now, I know that this video in no way covers every single stigma that you've heard about therapy, but hopefully I've been able to convince you that therapy is just like any other professional service that you already use. It's nothing scary, they aren't mystics. They're there to help guide you towards the quality of life that you want. Once again, my name's Daniel. This has been another Advantage Moment. Thanks for watching.